Okay, we'll start exactly at 4:05.
Empezaremos exactamente a las 4 o 5 minutos.
And we'll get started. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you everyone for joining us.
Gracias por estar aquí. Vamos a esperar unos minutos más para tener bastantes personas aquí. Empezaremos enseguida.
All right. Okay, I think we can get started right now. Welcome everyone. My name is Ileana Nicholas, and I am here today with Karen Camacho with the City of East Palo Alto. I do want to let everyone know there is interpretation services. Hay interpretación disponible el día de hoy. And you can access interpretation services in Spanish by going to the bottom of your screen. And sorry, I forgot to switch my slide. You can access the interpretation service or feature on your screen today by going to the bottom of your screen and selecting Spanish. Pueden escuchar la sesión el día de hoy en español yendo al icono del globo en su pantalla y puede seleccionar el idioma español. Again, I just wanted to share everyone that there are some meeting features that you are available to use. For example, you can should be on video. You can also unmute yourself to ask any questions during our Q&A portion, as well as type any questions or comments in our chat box on the bottom of your screen as well. And with that, we'll get started. Again, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here this afternoon to learn more about the City of East Palo Alto's accessory dwelling unit loan that we have had for a few years now, and we're happy to and excited to announce some new updates to our loan program. So just to get us a little bit just to let you guys know what the expectations for today will be, we'll do some introductions. I'll also give you a background on the loan program, as well as the City of East Palo Alto's background on accessory dwelling units, or what other people may call them as ADUs or second units. We'll go into the definitions of what ADUs are, as well as going over the loan guidelines, which I am assuming a lot of you are here to hear about today, as well as how EPA Can Do can help through our Can Do ADU program. We'll also meet another ADU product specifically for garage conversions that are also available to our East Palo Alto homeowners, as well as any next step, and wrapping up this session with questions and answers. So thank you, and we'll start off with some introductions. First of all, again, my name is Ileana Nicholas. I lead our ADU program here at EPA Can Do. We help homeowners in East Palo Alto be able to conceptualize their ADU product and be able to help them with their ADU needs, from the planning process to the building, and then having someone live in the unit. And again, I'm here today with Karen Camacho with the City of East Palo Alto, and I'll let her take it over to introduce herself.
Thank you so much, Ileana. I'm very excited to see you all here today joining us to talk about this incredible loan. My name is Karen Camacho. I'm the Housing and Economic Development Manager with the city. And my role is primarily supporting in implementation of this loan program with the city that Ileana will go into further detail. And tonight we also have Janet Nunez, our building services technician, and our chief building official, I believe, will also be joining us tonight to help answer questions you may have at the end. Again, we're here as a resource, and so you have my email address and phone number available as well if you have any questions. But I definitely recommend reaching out to EPA Can Do's Can Do ADU program. They really help you along every step of the way.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Karen. So I'm gonna follow up by giving you all an update on how we're here today. So as I mentioned earlier at the beginning, we launched this loan program, or the city along with EPA Can Do, we launched this program back in 2022 after receiving some funds from the state in 2020 to help East Palo Alto homeowners build units, these accessory dwelling units. And so we launched our program back in 2022, which was early last year. And we've done extensive outreach and done information sessions like this, and talked to many of y'all who are here in the room today as well. And so what we were noticing is that our program guidelines could be better and could be updated to serve more of the needs that you, our homeowners and residents, are needed, and we're letting us know that how the program could actually help you in better ways. So we embarked on our journey to update our program guidelines and be able to hopefully remove some of the barriers to our loan program and be able to have it be more accessible to you all. So today we'll be discussing a lot of those guidelines, as well as informing those who are new to this program on the benefits of this program, as well as how we can help you with any projects you might have in mind or that you may actively be working on. And so we just updated our loan guidelines back this summer, early December and June. And so now we're in August sharing these updates with y'all. And before I go any further, I've been saying the word ADUs a lot, and I have not defined what they are. ADUs, what they are secondary homes that are located on the same property as an existing home. They've been known under different names. For example, second units, in-law units, granny flats, casitas, and backyard homes. They are not always separate from the house. Sometimes these could be in your garage. Sometimes this can be a conversion of an existing space of the home. But they're all considered accessory dwelling units because they have everything that someone needs in order to be able to live. So for example, they have a kitchen, they have a bathroom, and they have somewhere for someone to sleep. So those are the names of accessory dwelling units, and that is what we will be referring to as ADUs going forward in this presentation. I'm sure many of you know that ADUs are not new to our community of East Palo Alto. They've been around for a very long time. But I wanted to give you all a little history on how ADUs became to be more formalized in how we talk about them, and how the city of East Palo Alto has approached the felicitation of them, as in producing new ones, and as well as helping those who may have already had a unit that may have not been done with proper permits. So this all started early on and back in 2016, where there was some uptick in court enforcement cases. And when I mean court enforcement, usually I mean like the building division went to your home and said that something was not to code, and so you were giving a violation to fix them. And so out of that time in our city's history, then came a really big push by nonprofit organization, as well as faith-based institutions in our community, to really ask the city to do something about this and be able to support homeowners who had accessory dwelling units that might have not been up to code or may have been built without permits, as well as also help those who are interested in doing an accessory dwelling unit. So all this was happening, and in 2020, the state of California passed a couple of new state laws that helped cities all over the state of California make it a lot easier for cities to support their homeowners, and for homeowners to be able to build the projects that they desired in their community, that they needed for their own household. For example, building accessory dwelling units to provide housing for a family member, or to be able to generate some income for themselves as well. So with this, I just wanted to give a little bit of background about how the city of East Palo Alto has approached accessory dwelling units in the past, and what they're doing going forward and now in supporting the production of accessory dwelling units, and how you may also be part of this movement in getting an ADU onto your property. So as I mentioned, in 2020, there were a lot of laws that were passed. And so I'm going to go into a little bit detail about what exactly were some of those laws. So some of the major things that happened was that there were new laws or regulations that stated that accessory dwelling units could go into residential neighborhoods. So neighborhoods like that are here in East Palo Alto that we live in. So that means that ADUs were permitted to be in residential units. So most residents will be able to build an ADU on their house. But they had to follow certain rules when you built them. And those rules are known as zoning, in terms of are they appropriate in the area of East Palo Alto, for example, are they appropriate to be in your neighborhood? Size, what is the maximum size of an ADU that could go in your property, as well as setbacks, how close to the fence lines or property lines could these units go if they were detached, for example, and height, how tall could these units be? So all these rules were sort of put in place so that they can support the creation of ADUs, as well as so that people like homeowners or developers will know what exactly is needed in order to build an ADU on their property. And out of that came out that you can build up to 3 different ADU types in the city of East Palo Alto. So the 3 different types of ADUs that we can build here in the city is, first of all, a detached accessory dwelling unit right here on my left, which is a standalone unit that is usually in the backyard of an existing home. So when we think about ADUs, we usually think about them separate from the main house. And then there's a junior accessory dwelling unit, which is inside of your house. And sometimes this could be a bedroom or a garage at some points. What it is commonly known as is a unit that is created within the 4 walls of your existing home. And then we have, lastly, an attached accessory dwelling unit here on my right. This is an attached unit that is added to your wall, added to your home by a wall. So what this means is that this is a full unit that is sort of placed onto your house. And it has everything, as I mentioned, again, it has everything that someone needs to live in. It has a kitchen, it has a bathroom, it has its own entrance, so separate private entrance. And most importantly, it's secured onto a foundation. So it has to be an actual real unit. And there are different types of ADUs available, but the most common ones here in the city of East Palo Alto are these three, which are the detached ADU, the junior ADU, and the attached ADU. And there are different, oh, I'm so sorry. There are different requirements for each type of unit. As I mentioned earlier, size of the unit is very important. So in the city of East Palo Alto, you can build a detached ADU that is separate from your main house that is up to 1,000 square feet, or the equivalent to about 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. And then they also have to follow some regulations, such as being 4 feet away from the property lines, being 6 feet away from your house, and also have a height restriction of 18 feet. This is just a little snippet or a little summary of the requirements for a detached ADU, but these are the most important ones. And we can go into detail more about your specific property or your specific project later on today as well. I just want to show these are a couple pictures of some detached ADUs. As you can see, they are separate from the main house. So there's some separation between the main house and the ADU. Second, I mentioned earlier that you could also have a junior accessory dwelling unit. The unique part of a junior accessory dwelling unit is that it is maximum size is 500 square feet. So it is smaller, but 500 square feet is also the equivalent to most garages as well of your house. So earlier I had mentioned that a junior ADU can be made through converting a part of your home or even a garage, but the maximum size is 500 square feet. And because they're so small, they do require their own entrance, and they require a small mini kitchen in there and can share the bathroom with the main house or can have its own bathroom as well. Again, this is just a quick summary of the rules for junior ADUs, and we can go into more detail later on about more, especially we're going to hear as well from one of our partners who specializes in garage conversions as well. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, again, there's also the option to have or build an attached ADU. Again, this is an ADU that it is attached to your main house by using one wall. The best example I have here is this picture here, where the ADU is connected to the main house. And you can see there's 2 separate doors, so they're 2 separate units. Most times you can have about 800 square feet of an attached ADU or 1,000 square feet. There's a little bit of math that we have to do in order to determine the maximum size for an attached ADU, but it is definitely an option. And again, it has to follow some rules, such as how far it can be from the property lines and how high it can be, and it has its own kitchen, its own bathroom, and its own separate entrance as well. And then, let me see. Okay. So I've said a lot of information about just the basics of what accessory dwelling units are. I want to move forward and just talk a little bit more about our loan program, which is what we're hosting our information session on, is to provide you all information of what exactly the loan program is and what it offers. Again, I am with EPA Can Do, and so what we do is that we help our homeowners here in East Palo Alto be able to plan and build and rent out their ADUs. What we do for most of the loan program It is, we help assess or figure out whether you income qualify for this program. And we help connect you to Mary West Mortgage, who is the entity that processes the loan for the city of East Palo Alto. So you'll hear that there are three major players in this process. So EPA Can Do, again, we do a lot of the outreach, a lot of the helping the homeowners answering questions about eligibility for the loan. We are the person who connects the city with Mary West Mortgage. The city is the lender, so ultimately this loan is from the city of East Palo Alto. And what they are here to ensure is that the ADU gets built and that the projects are progressing as they're intended to under the loan program. And Mary West Mortgage, as I mentioned earlier, they're the sort of the loan processor. They are the people that process a loan application. Since we only do the front portion of the work for y'all in order to help get you the loan program, the loan for their ADU. As I mentioned earlier, earlier in this session, is that we had launched this loan program back last year in 2022, and what we heard from y'all is that you needed a little bit more help in actually being able to use the loan. So what we did is we went ahead and did a lot of the updates to the loan program, and one of the biggest things that we did is increase the maximum award or the maximum amount that you can get for your ADU loan. Previously, we were offering loans between $75,000 to $80,000. So what we've done is actually increase the loan amount to just a maximum of $100,000. And you could use this $100,000 to cover different parts of the ADU construction process or the ADU building process, which is be able to use this money for plans and permits, as well as being able to do necessary upgrades to your house, to the house or the property in order for the ADU to exist, as well as assistance for construction itself to be able to buy material to build the ADUs or to renovate the ADUs if there were any ADUs that were existent. So again, wanted to say that the biggest update that we've done to the loan program is being able to offer $100,000 to homeowners who are interested in building an ADU. Next, I'll go ahead and I'll talk about the eligibility requirements that we have for the loan, and it's probably what you are really interested in learning about today is, well, there's a loan, $100,000. How do I get one? Again, I mentioned earlier that part of this loan that we are offering is to be able to assist homeowners build accessory dwelling units. So one of the key requirements for this loan program is that you have to have a building permit issued. And what does that mean? That means that homeowners in East Palo Alto have to apply for a building permit. So have building plans submitted to the city of East Palo Alto. The city of East Palo Alto review those plans, be able to give you a permit to build the unit. We also have to have borrowers be income qualified, as well as be owner occupied. So you have to be a homeowner in East Palo Alto. Have credit or cash commitments, which means that apart from the loan that we provide to you, there must also be more funding available to cover the full amount of the loan or the project cost. A project budget, satisfy our underwriting criteria, as well as agree to rent the unit that is built using this loan program to an income qualified household. So I'm going to go one by one with all the requirements and share what they all mean. So First, as I mentioned, there must be an ADU building permit issued by the city of East Palo Alto. So that's one of the first things that has to be completed before applying for the loan. So how do you get a loan? How do you get a building permit in the city of East Palo Alto? One of the first steps that you do is have someone design plans for your project. And this is usually an architect or a designer that designs your plans. And this includes several sheets or pages in the plan set, including being able to show where on your property you want to build, for example. So once you've designed your plans, the next thing you do is you submit the plans to the East Palo Alto's building division for first sign off to make sure that you can actually build by then giving those plans to building department, and then the building department goes ahead and just completes make sure that the unit is built according to code. Then there's approval or review by other agencies such as the fire district, the school district, and the sanitary districts in East Palo Alto. And then once all of those agencies get their review, you have then a permit that is issued. And then once you get your permit issued, that's when you can start construction, as well as getting your construction or the ADU finalized and then ready for someone to live in the unit. So this is a lot of information that I'm throwing out right here, but I just wanted to show you all just that there are about 6 different steps that you take, or 5, I should say, 4 to 5 different steps that that homeowners take when they want to get a building permit by the city of East Palo Alto, which is the first step in getting eligibility towards the loan program. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
The question I do have. Go ahead. I was going to ask.
I was going to ask if you could keep your question towards the end. That'll be okay. Thank you. So I just went over one of the major requirements for getting the loan by the city. Again, is getting a permit issued. The second requirement is being income qualified. So what we mean by income qualified is that you make under a certain amount of money a year. And this is by your household size. So depending how many people are in your family or you consider your household, we just want to make sure and verify that it's under the limit. On your screen, you'll see a couple examples of the income limits for what we call 80% AMI, which is a fancy term for low income. So in order to be considered low income, if you're one person, for example, you have to make less than $400 a year. So we just make sure that your household size is under that limit. And we verify that by asking you for pay stubs, for bank statements, and as well for tax returns if you are self-employed, for example. This is just a quick exercise that we do just to make sure that you're qualified under our income guidelines. The third requirement is that you are owner occupied, meaning that you live on your property full-time. You're a full-time East Palo Alto resident. And we just verify this by having a copy of your homeowner's insurance policy, as well as your utility bill, making sure, again, that you are a resident of East Palo Alto and this is your property and you live here full-time. The first requirement is being able to have credit or cash commitments outside of the $100,000 of the city's loan. And this is a very key point, just because we're seeing that $100,000 is not enough to cover the full project's cost. So, for example, if your project is $150,000, And the loan program will give you $100,000. There's a remaining need of $50,000. So we want to make sure that you have $50,000 somewhere else, whether that is cash, whether that is your savings, or whether you have that through a different loan. For example, maybe you refinanced your house or you took out a line of credit. We just want to make sure that if your project costs $150,000 and we're putting in $100,000, that you'll have the remaining amount to be able to finish the project. And so I mentioned this quickly before, but just as an example of other ways that you can close the gap is by having cash or savings, or having a different loan product as well. For example, I mentioned a home equity line of credit, or cash out refinance of your home, or maybe you have an ADU development loan through someone else. For example, San Mateo Credit Union, or Cal HFA, which is another state program that provides funding for accessory dwelling units. And again, this is something that as a participant in this loan program, and if you come to us with interest in building an ADU, we go into more details about this to be able to make sure that you are able to realize your project and be able to build it and take advantage of the resources that are available. The fifth item here on the list for eligibility requirements is a project budget. Because we are using state money, we want to make sure that it's being used responsibly. So we just want to make sure that all the costs that are associated with your project are eligible for the funding. So we do want to see a project budget. And most contractors will have this. But if you do not have a budget template, we can provide you one that you can use and be able to adjust to your project. Another thing here, as I mentioned earlier, is underwriting. So just like any other loan, there are requirements that you need to satisfy when it comes to your credit or financial history that you need to satisfy in order to get a loan. So luckily, just for the City of East Palo Alto loan, there are only two requirements, which is a credit score of 680 or above, as well as making sure your loan to value ratio, which means that you do not owe more on your house than what is that you do not owe more on your house than what it's worth. We just want to make sure that your mortgage is not underwater and that you have a satisfying credit score. Previously, we were asking for debt to income ratios, which means we wanted to see how much of your income was going to debt, just to make sure that you know that you will be able to repay your debts in a timely manner in the future. We are not requiring that anymore. We realized that was a big barrier for a lot of homeowners. So we have removed that requirement and reduced it down to 2, which is again a credit score and just making sure that your mortgage and home value is okay. Once we are able to satisfy all the requirements I just mentioned, the income, the permit, making sure you have the money to complete your full project, making sure you satisfy the underwriting criteria, we then go ahead and be able to process your application through AmeriWest Mortgage. Again, we do a lot of the front work with you first. We pass it off to AmeriWest that does the loan processing, and then finally, then the city will okay the issuance of the loan. And in the meantime, while you are building your project, the loan works a lot like a construction loan, where money is given to you as the project moves forward. So for every milestone your project hits, you get money. So for example, I just wanted to show that there are construction draws, which means money releases for every type of inspection you pass that is verified and approved by the City of East Palo Alto. So just as an example, you get your first payment once your building permit is issued. So as soon as your loan is issued, you get already one set of money. Then you get another set of money when your foundation inspection is passed, when your plumbing inspection is passed, drywall inspection is passed, and then you get one final chunk of money once your project reaches completion or passes its final inspection. Again, this schedule is tied really closely with the City of East Palo Alto's inspection schedule, which you'll see that there will be a couple inspections that you will need to pass as you're building your projects or remodeling any existing buildings you may have. Lastly, one of the things that the City of East Palo Alto asks in exchange for the $100,000 or for the loan is that any unit that is built using this money, using the loan, it is that you rent the unit to an income qualified household. So we talked a little bit earlier about what income qualified means, and it just means that the person who lives in the unit does not go over the income limits that we require for the program. Secondly, we also require that the rent that you charge for this unit does not go over a certain maximum. So you'll see on your screen that there are a couple numbers. For example, for a 1-bedroom unit, we ask that the maximum the rent amount does not go above the maximum, which is $2,700,000. Again, there's no minimum, so we do not ask. There's no minimum, so if you choose to rent out the unit to a family member or even to yourself, there is no limit. There is no minimum that or there is no amount that you have to rent it out for, as long as it does not go over the maximum shows on the screen. These change every year. The state publishes new limits every year, so it does change. And again, it is intended that for anyone who lives in these units or anyone who builds these units are income qualified, and that is so we can produce affordable housing in our community. Before I go into a little bit more now, I just wanted to quickly summarize some of the loan terms. I know that's something that I get a lot of questions on. For the loan, there are no loan fees, so you don't pay for notary fees, for example. The interest rate is 3% on the loan amounts, and only on the principal for every year. So 3% every year only on the principal. And it's deferred, which means that it has no monthly payments. So you are not required to do monthly payments on this loan. What happens is that the loan stays on your house until you either sell the house or you pass or transfer ownership of the house. There's no prepayment penalty, so that means that even if you decide to pay it off within 5 years of using it, you are welcome to do so. There's an affordability restriction to this loan. Again, you are required to rent out any unit that's built with this money to someone who is low income or income qualified. And then while you're participating in a program and the loan is on the house, we do ask you every year if you are still an owner, if you still own the property, if you still live there, and as well as making sure your insurance documentation is up to date and current. So I'm just gonna show this slide right here just to let y'all know that how EPA Can Do helps with the process of going either through this loan program or just interest in ADUs and building one. So what we do is we help you figure out what you can build in your property. So you can request a free assessment from us, and we will let you know what kind of ADU will be on your property, what size, placement of them. We also help with financing resources. Like one of the options again is the loan program offered by the city, as well as maybe just looking at your other options you may have, for example, a refinance or a line of credit or other programs that may be coming, as well that support ADU production. We can also help with plans and permits in terms of connecting you to a designer, helping you communicate with designer, having communications with the city of East Palo, planning or building departments. And then as well, when it comes to construction, we can connect you to general contractors. We can help you compare bids, as well as we can also help with the renting of the unit, and be able to guide you through the process of being a landlord and having a tenant as well. I mentioned early on in this presentation that we had one of our partners joining us today to speak a little bit more about garage conversions, which is a different, which is one type of ADUs product that we could, that homeowners in East Palo Alto can take advantage of. So I'm gonna do a quick introduction. We'll have Derek Oyang from Aduo talk in this moment right now, and he is leading a nonprofit initiative to develop open source plugin ADUs. That's a long word, but I'll let him explain what that means. And his focus is here in East Palo Alto, Belhaven, and North Fair Oaks. I posted the website on this slide in case anyone is interested in learning a little bit more about that, but I'll let him be able to share more information of Aduo.
Great, thanks, Ileana. My name is Derek. I'm a researcher at Stanford, and I have a nonprofit. And with a nonprofit, I've supported a lot of the housing initiatives you've heard about today, including the Cow Home loan design. But mostly I've focused on design of ADUs. So we're talking now about garage conversions. Remember, Ileana at the beginning mentioned there were 3 types of ADUs: the detached, the JADU, and the attached ADU. Garage conversions can be either a junior ADU or an attached ADU, and there's only a minor difference between those. Most importantly, if in your mind, your garage might be a good place for the ADU, which means you no longer have a car parked in it. Instead, it looks like an apartment with a kitchen and bathroom and living space, then this design might be something you want to consider. What does plug-in mean? As you can see in the images here, on the left side, you can see a kitchen kind of layout. That was actually in a warehouse in East Palo Alto on the northeast side. I worked with some local contractors to put that together in the warehouse first, where it's easier to do certain types of cabinetry work and wiring work, and they can do a kind of factory style. And then they could take the pieces of that apart. They come out like Lego pieces, and 2 guys can pick up each piece and put it on a truck and then drive straight to your garage and then quickly plug it all back together like Lego pieces. The point is to save time and to save money. The money is because we can do wholesale costs for some of the pieces and just quality control, faster work in the factory setting. It saves time on site, and neighbors don't get as annoyed about the noisy work going on. So lots of benefits to doing this plug-in. Another way to talk about this is prefabricated work. The middle image is what it looks like once it's done. Think about this as kind of if you make an L with your hand, then you can take any corner of the back of the garage, 2-car garage, and then the inside of the L is the bathroom, and then the outside is the kitchen, what you see in these images. So it only takes out up the corner, and then the rest can be your living, dining, bedroom space. And then if your 2-car garage is usually 400 square feet, then think of this as a 400 square foot studio apartment. What does open source mean? It means that because I'm a nonprofit, I'm not interested in turning this into a big business. As soon as we've developed this design and we tested it in a first house in North Fair Oaks, then I'm trying to make that design free and available. So think of this as not really having to spend as much money on architecture either. You can use the same layout. You still have to put together your drawings, but then it should simplify and speed up that process. This has been permitted before in East Palo Alto, although we didn't proceed fully to construction yet. But that means that this should be relatively easy to get permitted again, because it will be roughly the same design. And like I said, I worked with a local contractor in East Palo Alto, who you might choose to work with as the general contractor. If you go to the next slide, Ileana, if you just want to gain more of a sense of this project, then I do have a whole set of YouTube videos where I documented this first project that we did in North Fair Oaks. So you can start from the early design to what we were doing in the warehouse in East Palo Alto to actually putting it together in the North Fair Oaks garage. And the family is living there now. The mom of the homeowner is the one that's living in the ADU, and you can see them talk about the experience. You can see Ileana as a special guest in one of the videos, and you can see a CBS News article about this as well. So this is just one possible example of an ADU, right? And otherwise, you can take the Cal Home loan and do any number of designs. But the main idea of this, as you can guess, is to make the cost lower and lower. And so if you were to move towards a garage conversion project and potentially use the Aduo design, then it is possible for the loan, the $100,000 loan, to cover pretty much the whole cost of the project, right? And then that's likely to be much more expensive if you're doing one of the backyard ones that requires a whole new concrete foundation, etc. So think about garage conversions as a potentially most cost-effective solution. And then think about the Aduo design, and feel free to go to aduo.org. I'll put the link in the chat so you can just click directly on it, and you can watch those YouTube videos when you have a chance. And then, if you engage with the Cal Home program, you could definitely connect with me as well. So I can answer questions as part of the end as well. But I think a lot of questions will be answered if you just start to look at the website. Okay, back to you, Ileana.
Thank you so much, Derek. And as I mentioned, this is an option as well that we can connect you through the Can Do ADU program. As I mentioned earlier, what we're here to do is to provide resources and connections to homeowners in East Palo Alto looking to be able to build units, fix their units, and also be connected to financing opportunities such as the city's ADU loan. And so I mentioned before, if you are interested in learning a little bit more about the Can Do ADU program, as well as the loan program, and wanting to know how you can get started, we do have a link on our website that takes you to a program application where you just fill out, for example, your name and your address and sort of what you're looking for and how we can maybe help you. And then we'll be connected with you. We'll connect with you shortly after to follow up with an appointment to discuss an assessment of your property. And I know some of you today have already filled out the application, so thank you so much. And we'll be getting to you shortly on your based on your questions and the information that you're seeking. But what we do, if you are interested in the Cal Home loan, what we do is, again, we'll start with basic financial readiness, just to make sure that you are ready to take on this loan. And if you follow after that, when we can get started on building your project team. And again, that means a designer, an architect, or contractor to help us be able to do the permitting process for you to get the building permit, then construct your unit and then have somebody live in there. But let's say maybe some of you are here today because you are already in the permitting process, or you already have a permit. That's okay, because we can still help you as long as you have not received the final on your project. We can still help you because some of the money that you can use for this project for the loan is to cover construction. And again, I just invite you to fill out our program application form and be ready to go through the pre-qualification process and answer any questions we may have on the financing of your project and be able to start the loan process with us. I'll stop now for any questions that anyone may have. I see, and you are more than welcome to raise your hand, as well as put anything on the chat. Karen, maybe I'll link to you to help me guide me through the questions that have already been answered.
Yeah, and if you could just open up the interpretation slide, that would be helpful. just for
Okay.
folks that might not have been able to get the interpretation. So for anyone that just joined us, this webinar is being recorded and there is interpretation available. There may be some folks that speak in Spanish. So if you would like to hear what they're asking, select English as an option. Y para ustedes que hablan español y si les gustaría escuchar esta presentación en español, seleccionen el globo que está abajo en su pantalla en Zoom y seleccione español. Y si está en su teléfono, a veces unos 3 puntitos que selecciona y después puede seleccionar el globo de interpretación. So now we're opening it up for questions. We already have a few hands raised. And I did also suggest if folks had questions, they didn't want to forget them, to write them down in the chat. So let's see.
I wanted to ask about the permit process. You guys mentioned that there's like, steps, and you guys did a great job explaining the steps. But the question will be, how long on average does it normally take for the homeowner to get that permit from the city of East Palo Alto?
Thank you so much for that question. And now I'll pass it off to Janet, who will be able to answer that question.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for that question. So usually first round of reviews for any project for our city is 30 days. We're hoping that your designer architect can get everything in the plans the first round and we can just approve it after 30 days, excuse me. But if we do need to do another recheck because some items were missing, any resubmittals are a 2-week turnaround.
Okay, and then you guys talked about the loan. This is something that's you guys are gonna eventually run out of the loan funds for this type of project, or is it something that people can expect to kind of have available in the next year, in the next 2 years?
Thank you for that question. That's a really great question. How long is this funding available for? So this funding right now is available right now for our homeowners, and we have not used up the entire amount. Again, I don't know if I mentioned the amount, but it was 2 million. So we do help as many homeowners as we can with this amount, but it does run out. So it is on a first come, first serve basis. There may be opportunities for us to apply for more funding in the future. And of course, we'll be on that, trying to get more from the state as it becomes available. But at this time, it's first come, first serve, and it hasn't not been exhausted. Go
Just
ahead,
to add a little bit, there is, I think by June of next year, we don't know whether we'll have an extension of this loan. So like Ileana said, please, if you're interested, reach out to them as soon as possible because this might not be available next year.
Okay, and then just to touch into that question real quick, in terms of you guys are providing that funding, $100,000, which seems to be a lot, but obviously things of the rise of costs in construction and materials, as you guys know, has rise. So on average, how much are these dwelling units or, the different types of designs that you guys have? How much are they costing on average?
Yes, thank you so much for that question again. How much are ADUs costing on average? So on average, it depends on the ADU type. So as Derek mentioned, for a duo, for garage conversions, we're seeing anywhere from maybe 120 to 200. It really depends, it varies. For detached new construction, either that being something that is built as traditionally constructed, or something that is modular, like made in the factory, we are seeing prices anywhere between $300,000 to $400,000. So this is a key component or key eligibility requirement that we do ask from any borrower is that apart from the $100,000, how much more could you get from other sources to be able to complete your project cost?
Got it. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. And I believe our next person, Sierra, I think, Sierra Hill.
Yes. Hi, I wanted to ask, how would the property taxes go up, or would they go up, or how would that be affected at all depending if it's a garage dwelling unit or if it's a detached dwelling unit?
Thank you. I do know, so I'm not a tax assessor, so I'm gonna try to be able to answer your question as much as I can. But what I can tell you is that any new improvements you make on your property does get assessed by the San Mateo County Tax Assessor's Office. I'm able to speak exactly on how they do this work. But are assessed improvements you make, so your process reassess. That is which is basically like, you know, you pay your regular taxes for your regular house and the regular property like you always have, but you build something new, so then you build taxes on that new thing. And again, that might be a better question that could be very specific to your project or your property, because everyone's a different has a different base, and different projects cost different things. But we can explore that question as well more in a one-on-one, and maybe even having an appointment with the tax assessor's office.
Okay, and I have one more question. How are you guys gonna like address parking in East Palo Alto with more ADUs coming more popular?
Yeah, so that is a very popular question that we get. How do we address parking? So with accessory dwelling units, you are not required to build parking if you are within a half mile of transit, which is basically means, are you near enough to a bus stop? If you are not required to provide additional parking. But if you are away, you do have to provide parking. So that is a little bit more of a policy question, I think, as in the larger scale. The conversation about parking is more citywide. But I don't have a really good answer to tell you in terms of like how ADUs specifically worsen or improve parking, if that makes sense. I'm not sure, Karen, maybe you have a different answer for this question, but happy to hear your input as well.
Yeah, I think there's city requirements, but also there's going to be more buses, more incentive for folks to use alternative modes of transportation. So that's the direction in which all cities are heading.
Okay, and is there a maximum number of people that can live in each ADU unit?
Yes, there is. Technically, like just I'm not sure what the specific name for these laws are, but we can assume that for every one bedroom there's two people, up to three people associated with one bedroom. So I won't say that there'll be up to 10 people living in a 3-bedroom house, but it is very hard to track that. But as a landlord, you do have the ability to put that in your lease, the maximum people that are available, that are able to be on your unit. And that is enforceable through your lease as well. So if there are any concerns about maximum people, or you want to state how many people can be in a bedroom or in an ADU, you have the ability as a landlord to put that on your lease.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I think the second person we have is Noah. Is Manuel still with us right now?
Thank you. The question was answered.
Oh.
And it was about, can I use a loan for the applying and the architect and engineering and all the design?
Yes, those are all costs of eligible for the loan. So you can pay a designer, you can pay an engineer, anything that you need to do in order to get a building permit, you can have it covered by the loan. I am looking through the chat right now, and there are questions regarding whether this recording and presentation will be available after today. It will be. I will be shared with everyone who is registered on the webinar or session. Let me see if there are any other questions that I have here.
So there's a question in the chat asking, are there other, what other additional assistance are available for seniors or funding sources?
That's a very good question. At this moment, I do know we have this opportunity available. It's not necessarily geared towards seniors, but we have the Cal Home Loan available. I know the state of California also has more funding opportunities for homeowners. Again, not necessarily for seniors, just general population for ADUs. As we know more about that, we share with our participants. But specifically for our seniors, I don't know off the top of my head, but I am happy to look more into that and share that information later on.
You mentioned that they have to be rented out to people of low income backgrounds, depending on the tablet or table that you provided. Now, does it have to be rented out, or could it just be used as an extra space or room for someone else at home for you without having them pay rent?
That you can do that as long as the person is income qualified and you have a lease with the individual living on the unit. So there are many people who build them for family members, and they may not want to build, and they might not want to charge rent. That is completely fine as long as the person again is able to state their income, if they have income or not, and have a lease associated. I
think somebody else was trying to say something. And so if you were to say you want to rent it out to people that are, qualified as low income families, who verifies that process? Do you verify it? Does the city verify it, or how does that work?
Yes, so we do. The city, when I say we, I mean mostly EPA can do in the city. We do verify that you have a lease. Again, this is stated back in one of the slides where I mentioned there is annual monitoring. So again, we make sure that you do live on this unit, stuff like that. Yes, so it's part of the annual monitoring.
And the last final question I have is the $100,000, you eventually have to pay it off. Once you paid off that amount, do you have to follow those requirements, or could just you start renting it out to other people?
Right. So as long as you have this loan on your house, you are subject to the requirements. Once the loan is paid off, you're more than welcome to be able to do your ADU or rent it out to someone else as well.
Thank you.
Especially to Dwayne Bay and Ileana and even Janet. All those people have participated in me going through this process, which is really a phenomenal process. Like I said, I just want to thank everyone that is concerned. I think it's a good thing, and it's kind of tiresome sometimes because there's a lot that goes into it. But as it is, I got a meeting I need to go to, and so I was trying to listen to all I can and then put my input in as well. And so I wanted to thank those Romero, everybody that has done all kind of stuff in this process for me and my family, and well in the community. And I know traffic is a big issue because anytime you have more dwelling units, you're going to have more traffic. So we get that concept. But as the world is today and what we go through and what our kids have to go through, some of them having to come back home because of financial needs and stuff like that, getting out of school, college, whatever it is a wonderful program. And so I thank God for Ileana and her team who has assisted me through this process. And so I just wanted to say thank you, like I said, to everyone, but I do have to leave, and I just wanted to make note that I had to go. And so thank you so much, and I hope I got enough to help me, and certainly God for everyone. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Nice to see you. Thank you. I do see that there are a little bit more comments in the chat.
So yeah, there's questions about who can live in the unit. So one
Yes.
question is regarding whether it can be used for someone in the family who is disabled. And then another question, whether the owner themselves, the borrower, can live in the unit itself and rent out the main home.
Yes, so it's a yes to both. So the ADU can definitely be used for somebody with a disability. And as long as the person or individual, again, is income qualified. So it's under the income limits, and I'm happy to reshare those again, those income limits. Can the owner of the property move into the new unit and then rent out their main house? That is that is allowed as well, as long as the owner continues to be low income or fits into the income limits. That is, again, sorry, I'm like losing my brain and my tongue are not alike. So basically anyone can live in the unit as long as they're income qualified, as long as they fit under those income requirements. That is completely okay, whether that is a family member, whether that is just a community member, a senior, or even the homeowner itself that wants to live in a unit. As long as they fall under that requirement, that is completely okay. And again, there is a lease associated. And remember, the lease is mostly to protect yourself as the landlord or owner of the home, and to protect the renter as well as a tenant in the home. And that is why we require that little protection between both parties, for there to be. And again, I mentioned we do help assist with that process as best as we can. And then just to clarify a question, yes. So as soon as the $100,000 loan is paid off, the landlord is no longer limited by any of the requirements of the program. So you're not limited to continue to rent out to someone who's income qualified, or to the rent maximum limits. Yes, you have a question, Ms. Q. Smith?
I do. Like Mr. Moore, I do have to go, but I just wanted to say thank you so very much for this presentation. Everybody involved, Mr. Bay, you, Ms. Camacho, whoever helped you with this presentation. The speed, the information was great. Thank you for having the slides be available after, because it is a lot of information. But you guys went about it very slow. Everybody around me heard it. So hopefully this clears up a lot of questions, even though I know questions come at the same time and you've covered it, but repeat is good. So thank you for taking that on, and especially here with a group of people that I have, it was a fear in regards to renting out a room and or your ADUs to people, because the state of California gives renters more rights than homeowners when it comes to moving in and having a guide or having some guidance in regards to how to protect yourself while you are trying to help our community or somebody else makes a big difference. That was the main thing here, was like, oh, okay, that's a seller, because people are being taken advantage of when you do try to help people. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate all you guys are doing. And I just love my community. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Liliana, there's a question in the chat about whether an owner can move into the ADU and then rent out the main house.
Yes, that is correct. I think I answered that one. As anyone can live on the unit as long as they're income qualified. I do see another question regarding RVs or ADUs. So this question sort of sometimes come up when we hear the term tiny homes. Tiny homes are sort of like ADUs, but they are on wheels. So technically, tiny homes on wheels are considered recreational vehicles, or so sort of RVs. Unfortunately, this loan program wouldn't qualify, wouldn't see tiny homes or homes on wheels as an ADU type. The ADUs that the loan does cover are ADUs that are secured onto a foundation. So they actually have a foundation that secures them, or a slab foundation, or more engineered foundation. And furthermore, I think that the question that is also being asked is if it's under a certain size, does it qualify as something else? I think the minimum size for any ADU is 150 square feet, which is really small. But we've seen ADUs here in East Palo Alto built between somewhere around the 300s up to 1,000. So it does range a lot, as long as it's within the limits that the city code allows.
And I do want to open it up for folks that may speak Spanish. Para ustedes que hablan español, también pueden hacer sus preguntas en español.
Well, I'm bilingual, so I guess I can say it in Spanish, but I wanted to ask the following question. Para las personas que quieran vender la propiedad eventualmente, ese préstamo de los $100,000 se tiene que pagar inmediatamente, o porque dijeron que si se vendía la propiedad o si cambiaba de dueños automáticamente no calificaba? Si me pueden explicar esa parte, por favor.
Claro, and if anyone needs, Karen, I think you have more experience with this if I respond in Spanish.
I
Or
sorry, I
should I
was
have
on the
Paulina?
English channel and I couldn't hear the
Okay,
question
sorry.
fully in Spanish. What was the question?
The
Oh.
question was more about, like, if the property, let's say the owner of the property decides to sell the property, will they be automatically in charge of repaying that $100K loan, like as soon as they sell the property or transfer title? How does that work?
Yeah, so like Ileana mentioned earlier, the payment of the loan would be upon transfer of title.
So it will be due immediately after the house or property is sold, basically.
Yes, that's correct.
Got it.
Sorry, Karen, I was asking if I respond in English or in Spanish. But in case,
You can respond in English, folks are on the Spanish channel. Yeah.
okay, yeah, thank you. You, okay, so there's two more questions. So one question is, how does or will this connect to OPA properties, which stands for Opportunity to Purchase Act properties? It is my understanding that the ordinance is not fully hasn't been adopted yet, and I think it's still drafting. So, but I believe at this moment in time, accessory dwelling units wouldn't not be subject to this. But Karen, if you are able to answer that a little bit more.
Yeah, that's correct. And for those that aren't familiar with that, an opportunity to purchase policy intends to give opportunities to purchase for current tenants that may be living in units and non-owner occupied single family homes or homes that are owned by folks that do not live in East Palo Alto. And ADUs aren't included in the count for units. So ADUs aren't, it wouldn't necessarily affect or interfere with this program.
Thank you. And then another question, how many square footage does your property need to be in order to build an ADU? At this moment in time, I think a lot of the state laws that were passed in 2020 removed the requirement for there to be a size that your property needed to be in order to build an ADU. But that's not the case anymore. As long as you can fit one and it follows the regulations such as maximum size, distance from the setback, distance from the property lines or distance from the main house, you can still build an ADU. So the size of your property is no longer determines whether or not you can build an ADU. All right.
Does the side of the property means what is it, 5 feet, 6 feet from the fence, or how does that work again?
Yes, it is 4 feet from the fences or the property lines, and then 6 feet from your house. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you everyone so much for all your questions and for being here. I know we are over time, but I am happy to share my my contact information in this right now momentarily. In case you have any other questions that were not answered today, or something comes up afterwards that you would like to get in contact with us. Again, my name is Ileana Nicholas, and I'm Karen Camacho is here from the city. I posted our website information as well as our emails and phone numbers for you to contact me. Mary West is not here today, but I've put in their contact information as well if anyone is interested in contacting them. Maybe not about the ADU loan, but maybe about a refinance or anything else, as well as the City of East Palo Alto's planning department and building department information. They're always available to answer any questions you may have. And they also have appointments that you can make with them, either online or in person, to be able to ask them any questions you may have. Again, this presentation and this recording will be available. You'll probably get them in your email, in your inbox early next week, but the information and recordings will be shared widely across EPA Can Do and as well as the city's Palo Alto websites and newsletters. And again, there's also the contact information for a duo. If anyone's interested as well, you can be connected to a duo through me, EPA Can Do, or by going to aduo.org and learning more about their garage conversion project. And I think I might end the presentation right now, but I'll stick around if anyone has any last minute words or questions, but we are ready to conclude today's presentation.
I just wanted
Thank
to
you all so
appreciate
much.
you guys for all of your information, valuable information, just the PowerPoint slides, and the time that you guys took to basically communicate this important message across our community. So thank you for everything that you guys are doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Leon, I gotta.
All right. Thank you, Derek.
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Have a great Friday.